Really?
get it and they use it and whatever, it's like a thing.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the October 1st meeting of the Board of Selectmen, Highway Commissioners, Cemetery Commissioners, relocated from the Black Tavern. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, I had a request to move Selectmen comments to the beginning of the meeting, but Mr. Balcoonis just stepped out. I don't know why, so we'll wait till he comes back in. I don't want anybody to miss anything. At this time, it's no secret, we're losing a highway superintendent to a much-deserved retirement, and we'd like to bring out a small token of appreciation to 39 years of service to the town of Dudley, to Danny Guyon. Danny? Thank you. Thank you.
Surprise.
Thank you.
Good, sit in it.
Very nice. Have a seat, Danny. Maybe someone could take a picture.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
the whole point.
That was the whole, yeah.
You don't mind, do you?
Does it fit?
Yeah, this will go right on my porch. Better not be outside.
The whole group, I want the whole group.
Watch the snow.
Watch the snow. Danny, if you want to say a couple words at the microphone, go ahead. If you want to wait, you can wait.
Thank you, Dave.
You want to read what it says?
Yeah, Danny, want
Here
to
it says on it.
read it out, what it says?
Do you need glasses, Dan?
Yeah, you can't see
I
that.
didn't bring my glasses either. It says Daniel Guyon, given on behalf of a grateful community on your retirement. Thank you very much. Here, here. But that was a humbling experience. But I would like to say, yeah, it's been a nice ride, 39 years. Enjoyed my time working for the town of Dudley. Town of Dudley's been good to me, afforded me a good living. I didn't get rich, but I'm not poor. Few people I'd like to thank that I've dealt with along the way is Police Chief Steve Weiner and his staff for any kind of help we needed over the years for removing parked cars or any kind of cars in the way for snow plowing or road construction. Dean Kochanowski, the fire chief, many times during blizzards, his crew was out there cutting up trees, opening up the roads for us so we could continue plowing, so we wouldn't have to keep getting out. Dean also was able to acquire, through a grant, a saw trailer, which is got about $15,000 to $16,000 worth of equipment in it, saws and lights and all kind of other equipment for any kind of fighting of trees coming down or limbs coming down, blocking the roadways. Thankfully, we haven't had to use that trailer for its full capacity yet. I hope we don't have to, but we have it on site. The numerous highway workers I've had over the years. We've had some good guys, a couple characters here and there as well. We've always had a few guys that went above and beyond the call of duty, and we still have a couple of guys like that in the department. It's a good department. All the officers and the women and the men in the town hall, various officers who've helped me out over the years whenever I needed anything, whether it was the assessor's office or the treasurer's office or the town clerk's office, always willing to help. I don't want to leave anybody out. You know, the board of selectmen. This group has been together for quite a few years. I know Kerry is the newest one, but I've worked with Kerry on the finance board and capital improvement committee, and always helped out the highway department and me as well. And Board of Selectmen, you probably think it's not that big of an issue, but you've always had the confidence in me. You've never micromanaged me, and that's a big thing. You've always let me do my job. Anytime you wanted something done, I tried to get it done. I think I did get everything done that you wanted, or at least tried to the best of my ability. I've worked with a few town administrators over the years, and I got to say Mr. Balcoonis is probably the best one so far. Has built up the highway department budget where we can actually do something now. We've been held back for many years. Well, nobody's fault, but just the way the budget was. Yep. And most of you know I do all my own office work, my own billing and invoices and payroll and any kind of bid packages that was put together, reimbursement packages. But the one person who's helped me out whenever I got really behind and bogged down, even though they were under a lot of work, was Michelle. So thank you, Michelle. You've always been willing to help out, and whenever you could. Certainly appreciated that, and like I said, I hope I didn't leave anybody out. If I did, it's certainly unintentional.
Yeah, your
But,
wife.
well, my wife, yeah, she's home. She just got home a little while ago from a doctor's office. She works for up in Auburn. And she was gonna try to change up and hurry up and get down, and I says, no, don't bother. I says, stay home and relax. But I certainly appreciate everybody that I've dealt with over the many, many years of my service, and certainly will remember each and every one of you. But thank you.
Mr. Massey?
Danny, I gotta say, the thing I will miss the most about you is whenever I text or call, it's something, the best part about being a selectman is helping people. You know, a lot of the stuff you see in the day-to-day and what happens on TV or anything like that, but when you have a resident and said, hey, I have a branch down, or hey, I have this, the Little League needs that, you answered the bell every time, and that never went unnoticed by people in the community. So, you know, it made me feel good that I could help, but it made, you know, the town look really good at the same time. So, Mr. Paletta, you have very, very big shoes to fill. Danny, thank you for all you've done, and congratulations, well deserved.
Thank you.
Mr. Rudolph?
My only observation is I want to thank you for letting us forget, at least me for the past 9 years, that I'm actually a highway commissioner, too. And taking care of things behind the scenes, we appreciate that.
Very good.
I hope you enjoy your retirement. It's certainly well-deserved and well-earned.
Thank you.
Mr. Siganovich?
One thing that I noticed, Dan, and I want to commend you on, is something you've done recently. Most people, when they're about to retire, they coast. They coast for the last few months or weeks or whatever. I've noticed right up until now, there's road work being done. The intersection at the golf course, all around town, there's roads being fixed. Anywhere that just about anywhere I could think of where there was an issue, it was almost like a race. You wanted to get it done before you retired. You didn't want to leave us in a bad spot. And that'll stick in my head, and thank you for that.
Thank you.
Mr. Joseph?
You used to be my next-door neighbor. I remember when your dad used to sit in the front porch, and he'd tell stories, and I'd listen to them, and that's how I met you, listening to your dad tell stories on the porch of the house next door. I want to echo what John said. We all get a lot of calls, and you've always, without exception, responded quickly. You're a man of integrity, honesty, and a work ethic that can't be topped. You're much appreciated.
You know, I want to echo what everybody said and add a few words. I mean, everybody knows how I feel about Danny. I've said it 1,000 times. He's been my friend longer than I've been a selectman. He'll be my friend long after I'm no longer a selectman. I just thought I'd be done this year, but
You're all set.
yeah, I'm all set. But really, Danny's department, all the departments, but we're talking about Danny tonight, answers the call on anything. To call him the highway department is such an injustice. You know, when we needed things built, they build it. They built the mailbox system downstairs. They do the shed at the recycling center. They pick up branches, they pick up animals. You can't even, I can't even begin to scratch the surface of what they've done more with less. And nothing sums it up better than you look at some of these surplus vehicles other departments can't use anymore. They go down to the highway department and they find new life for 8 or 10 years. And all that's money saved to the town. And certainly I would never call Danny cheap, because I never really went out with him on a social event too often, but he did treat every nickel,
Not that you'd remember.
it depends what time of night. But no, he treated every town nickel like it was his own. He never spent frivolous. Money at the end of the year either went to where it was needed or went back to the general fund. And I'm gonna tell a quick story. Shows the kind of guy Danny is. There was an old lady just passed away on James Street, widowed, no children. Tree came down, near her house. She said to me, Sully, can the town help me out? I said, really can't go on private property. She said, I don't think it's private property. There's a paper street that goes from James Street to, I think it's to Brandon, James to Hill Court. So I said, I never heard of that. I've been doing them. I called Danny. I said, Danny, is there a paper street that the town owns? Oh, yeah. He knew the name. He knew the location. I said, perfect. Tree went down next to the lady's house. Can you cut it up? No problem. The tree was gone that day. So he answered the bell every time the bell rang, and you can't say anything more than what we all just said about Danny. So I just wish him all the best and hope he has at least 39 years of good retirement. And maybe the Vikings will win a Super Bowl for you.
I do want to say one more thing. Like I said, I don't want to leave anybody out, and I want to certainly recognize my foreman, Vincent Paletta. He's helped me out whenever I was never around, or I had to take a day off or tied up in a meeting. Vinny, you know, he always got the work done in a good way and the way I wanted it to. And again, he looks after the budget as well. But he's going to do a great job, I think. Yep, no problem. But thank you, everybody. I certainly appreciate it.
Well, we appreciate it too, Danny.
Hey, Danny.
Thank you. Back to the regularly scheduled portion of our agenda. First up, acceptance of minutes, September 24th, 2018. What is the board's pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, I'll move to accept the minutes of September 24th, 2018.
Motion made to accept.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Marcy. Any comments or corrections? Hearing none. All in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Executive session minutes of September 24th, 2018. Before I ask for a motion, this will be not to be released, right?
Correct, approve and not release.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the executive session minutes of September 24th, 2018, not yet to be released.
Motion made to accept but not release. Approve, I mean, but not release.
Second.
Second by Mr. Marcy. Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Next up on the agenda, we have a appointment and resignations. 3A, we have a student rep offered up by this Shepherd Hill from 2018-2019, Bailey Bowes. Mr. Sullivan, dear Mr. Sullivan, as we begin the new year, I respectfully request consideration by the Dudley Town Board of Selectmen to accept grade 12 student Bailey Bowes as a non-voting student representative. Bailey Bowes is looking forward to the experience, the rewards, and challenges of municipal government. I'm sure this learning experience will be invaluable to Bailey. Also, if needed, I thank you in advance for your consideration. I'm available should there be any questions or concerns. Sincerely, William Chaplin, Jr. Is Mr. Bowes here tonight? He's already missed his first meeting.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Ruda.
Oh, he didn't really technically miss it.
I know,
because we
Mr.
haven't appointed him yet.
That's right.
So,
On that note,
I'll make a motion that we act affirmatively on Mr. Chaplin's recommendation to appoint Bailey Bowes as student selectman. We usually assign a term to this, or
just a school year, I think.
to the
conclusion.
2018-2019 school year?
Motion made by Mr. Ruda, second by Mr. Marcy to appoint Bailey Bowes. Any questions, comments? Hearing none, all state aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. And just for the public consumption, Bailey's mother is Heather, who comes before us. She's very active in the community with charity events, and she was here at the last meeting. So we welcome Bailey.
Bailey is also, Mr. Chairman, been here for his Eagle project.
Yep.
When he put the sign on the Dresser Hill Road going into Charlton.
For his Eagle Scout, right?
Eagle project.
Yeah, for his Eagle
Definitely,
Scout
right.
project.
I've known Bailey since he was this big. He's quite a kid. Young man, excuse me.
Next up on the agenda, Acting Highway Department Foreman. At this point, I'll call up soon-to-be Acting Superintendent Vin Paletta. Just to catch the board up while Vinny's coming up, last week, myself, the town administrator, and Mr. Paletta met with the 5 in-house applicants. Very fortunate that a good number of the gentlemen on the crew stepped forward. All excellent candidates, and it was very close to make a decision. We kind of leaned on Vinny to break the tie, per se, to let him have the person that he feels could help him the most in this circumstance, and at this point, I'll turn it over to Vinny. Good evening.
Good evening. Yeah, after that review, was, like I said, it was pretty tight, and I'd like to recommend Stanley Galinsky for the interim.
Is he here?
woman. Yes.
Yes. Stanley's here. You want to take a motion first before we bring him up, or?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we act affirmatively on your, Mr. Paletta and Mr. Valiakonis's unanimous recommendation to appoint Stan Golinski as acting highway foreman.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Ruda, second by Mr. Sigenovich. At this point, I'll call Stan up if he wants to say a few things.
Does the motion include a effective date?
Yeah, effective October 12th until a successor is appointed.
Thank you.
Is that okay with the mover and the second?
Is that added in?
Yes.
Yeah,
Thank
it
you.
is now. Come on up, Stan. Good evening.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to be the interim foreman. Vinny's shoes are going to be very tough to fill as foreman because he's been the foreman since I've been on the highway, and that's nearly 19 years. So trying to fill his shoes is going to be tough because he did a really great job as the foreman.
I think so. Any questions? Good, Paul.
Do you want it?
Yes, I do. Absolutely. Looking forward to doing the job.
What kind of job do you think you'll do?
I think I'll do an excellent job.
Why?
Because I really pay attention to detail in everything we do.
Okay. He's going to be a strength for you.
Yes.
Okay.
High-quality work. He does very high-quality work.
How long you been with the highway department?
19 years in November.
Sweet mother of Mary.
Yep.
Okay, I'm done.
Kerry.
No, I've known Stan since we were young. I can't think of anyone who would be.
Wait a minute. You guys are like the same age?
Ish. Ish.
So he went gray, you went.
I went away. Man, you're
I've been here
out.
for 2 meetings, Mr. Ruda.
One. I missed one.
Well, I mean,
Seems like
I would,
longer.
I would just encourage, Mr. Chairman, I would just encourage that, Stanley, you keep an open line of communication with Vinnie, and Vinnie keeps an open line of communication with Greg at all times. Going forward, that has to be the way we do business.
That's how, because I'm the equipment, I run the backhoe, and we've always had very open communication between everything we do. He discusses it with me, so we know everything. We're on the same wavelength for all these years.
Okay, great. Congratulations.
Mr. Massey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, congratulations, Stan. My question sort of echoes Mr. Joseph. So, are you ready to step up? It's not just a foreman, it's still a leadership position, so guys might look at you a little differently now. And you're ready for that? You're gonna be
Yeah, I'm
able to
ready
handle
for
them? You have good relationships that you've built over the years?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, they've put a lot of trust in me over the years anyway. They usually tell me what we're going to do, and usually I make sure it gets done over the years anyway.
He's gonna have a great crew to
Okay.
work with him,
No, I always ask that of people who this is
No,
a
they're a good
Well,
crew of guys. And
different
they're-
lens, right? You'll be looked at under, that's all. I know you can do it.
Thank you.
All right, that was one of the, first off, I want to thank Stanley and the other 4 applicants for stepping up, all for consideration. And to a man, that was one of the questions asked. One person's going to get it, the other 4 aren't. Would it affect your working relationship? We're all pretty honest, straightforward. Nope, we can work with each other. I can work for him. I can work for anybody. And all of them, in the series of questions that we asked, Vinnie won't let off, all emphasized the safety of the job, the safety of their performance. One person commented, I want to go home with 10 fingers and 10 toes. And yeah, the work gets done, and somehow it doesn't look like it's going to get done, but I think that speaks a lot when they're, concerned about safety, including the people around them. They're worried about blocking roads, blocking access. But that being said, I think Stanley's going to be an excellent choice. I've known Stanley a long time also. I've seen him in action. I've seen him out plowing. He takes that loader and he cuts better corners than some people do a pickup truck. So I think we're going to be okay. We're in good hands for now till we shake it out full time.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion or questions? Hearing none. All in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Good luck.
Thank you.
Guys,
Next up,
baton/torch has been passed.
yeah,
Yeah.
The shovel.
the shovel. Not sure what they're shoveling, but the shovel. Next up is public comment, citizens' comments, strictly informational. Anybody have anything they wish to talk about that's not on the agenda tonight? Mrs. Bazinet first, and then, hello, you, oh, they were first, sorry. Yeah. Mr. and Mrs. Bazinet, I apologize.
No.
Yeah. Who's the captain? Who's the captain of the team?
You know, the sound's perfect back there, and it dies here.
What?
Yeah. And I was just saying, wow, they've improved the sound.
We take all the air out of the room.
Good evening.
Good evening.
You really want to
You
give
all
him a
know who I
softball
am.
like that?
I did. That was a softball. I thought you'd run with it, but
I'm Linda Bazinet, the chairman of the Black Tavern Historical Society, and I just wanted to come and tell you that we're having our craft fair on Saturday, October 6th, at the tavern. We have over 37 crafters. We'll be at the tavern. We're going to be on the Common. The Historical Commission has 5 or 7? 7 crafters from Old Sturbridge Village coming to show their own, you know, what do you call it, old crafts, or whatever. But what I'm really here for is because parking on Center Road, so that we don't expect people to be there long. I have Nichols' permission to use the 1805 lot, but if it does get crowded and we need parking along the road. I know the reason I'm here is I talked to Michelle today, and she said the Grange had not asked for permission yet for their Apple Festival, but she did say a letter came in after I talked to her. So I'm here to ask for permission to park along Center Road.
Is that the same day as the Apple Festival?
Yes, yeah, the craft fair and the Apple Festival. The Grange will run the Apple Festival, and they're running their snack shack because they feed our vendors for us, you know. So it's a big event on Dudley Hill. We hope everybody will come and support us and buy crafts and gifts and get some interesting stuff.
Mr. Joseph?
Yeah, you know, I mean, we can't take a motion on this because it's not printed in the agenda. However, there is a way around it. And I would ask for unanimous consent to favorably acknowledge the Black Tavern Society's request for parking on both sides?
Usually they kind of stick to one side.
Okay, for parking on one side of Center Road on Saturday, October 5th.
6th.
6th, from when to when?
Oh, the craft fair is 10 to 3, so I'd say 9:30 to 4, just to make
Okay,
it.
from 9:30 to 4. So I checked into the rules, and we can favorably acknowledge something by unanimous consent, but not by vote. And that's what I asked the board to do in this case.
Greg? Is that apropos? Would that give them permission?
Yes.
It's the board's pleasure.
I don't have any objection.
I have no problem.
No, nor do I.
If it was a motion, I would have seconded it, but it's not, because we can't vote on it, so.
No, was it a motion?
If it was a motion.
Right. I would just suggest that you just double-check with police and fire to make sure there's access, and
Yeah,
which I'm sure you will.
I'm sure I will.
I think you've done this once or twice.
I have.
I don't know about the guy next year.
And we appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, we appreciate all you guys do.
Now I'll go to the other half.
Now that we know the process, we have a request to the Historical Commission to allow some usage of the town common on that next Saturday, which is the 13th of October, for some Civil War reenactments around the anniversary of Ball's Bluff. And they usually have a dinner every year at the tavern, and they come out in their full regalia, and they are interested in doing some stuff on the common from 1 to 3 in the afternoon, and it would be muskets and small drills and that kind of thing. They might put a tent up.
Now, is there a name for the event?
Well, I don't know what, it's the Mass 15th usually that,
It's what?
the Massachusetts 15th Regiment.
Reenactment.
Reenactors, volunteers.
On
yeah.
the common,
They're going to be at the tavern for their annual dinner, but they would like to go onto the tavern, on the common ground to do some small drills and things for the public from 1 to 3 in the afternoon.
Are you also asking for parking exemption?
It's hard to tell what we'd get for traffic for that event, but it's a good idea to say, yeah, we may have some traffic requests at the same
All
time.
right. Mr. Chairman, I would ask for unanimous consent to favorably acknowledge the Black Tavern the Historical Society, Historical Commission
Yep.
request to hold a reenactment on the town common and to allow the necessary parking on Center Road on Saturday, October 13th, from 1 to 4 p.m.
Okay.
Board members?
I don't object, Bill.
I don't have an objection either, and no reflection on the request. I think from now on, we should stress, though, it should be agenda items. But I think we'll grant, I have no issues. I would grant it if it was an agenda item or not. I just think going forward, I don't want to set bad precedent where people come in because, I forget your words, your great saying about when people come at the last minute, I need this sign for tomorrow. Their rush is not our problem. I
Yeah.
paraphrase it.
And I think that I would like to ask that later on, that an item be placed on our next agenda regarding late requests. All right? But it's not appropriate to make it now.
All I can say in my defense is I didn't know that they hadn't asked for
Oh, yeah, oh, no, no.
for permission, and so,
Right. Oh, no, it's no reflection on the request. I mean, they would have passed anyway if they're on the
Yeah.
agenda. We've never
I
said no.
had thought of it before, I would have been here before, but usually the Grange asked, and we found out that the Grange didn't ask. So, and then I called Michelle this morning, she said, couldn't get on the agenda, but I could come and plead my case. So here I am pleading my case.
Hopefully, make you plead too bad.
I'm not pleading for anything.
No.
Up to the 5th. Yeah, I didn't realize that the Balls Bluff group was going to want to do anything beyond the tavern until I spoke to them this weekend. And they said, oh, we'd like to do that. And I said, well, that sounds nice. And if we can get the word out to the town, might be fun, for a couple of hours. So that's why we're a little late to that.
That's okay. All right, so let the record reflect that the board has looked favorably upon the request of both the Black Tavern Society and the Mass 15th.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, one last thing.
Oh.
Let me just tell you, I've chatted with the chief of police tonight about parking along the common anyway, because we've had some issues. I remember Tony back in the day when we originally came up with signage up there. He says, this is never going to work, Ed. You're going to be back at us all the time. Well, it really never worked. But now we have students parking for days on end in those spots. It's not just they're coming in for a class and leaving, but they're leaving their cars there now for overnight. So I'm working with the chief. We're going to try and get some new signage that we can agree upon that might be effective to keep that down. Otherwise, it screws everything up,
You beat me to it. I was going to make my comments tonight. I was up there for something else the other day, and I noticed a few cars in those reserved spots, and there's one that has a vanity plate, which is very distinctive, and I know that person's an employee there, and it's there. The last 3 times I went by, it's there, so I was going to bring it up tonight during comments.
And there are a lot of people that come and visit the town that just pull in there unexpectedly. They see it, and they stop, and then they wander around and read this stuff. And if we're sitting on the porch, or Bob or Chris or something, sometimes we get out there to see if they've got any questions. You can tell if they're strangers. And it's been a really nice attraction. They can see the sign, they know it's the town common, and they know there's some interpretive panels now. So we want to keep that space open. If there are cars jammed up there all the time,
Right, it
they
doesn't
can't
work.
see it, they just go right by.
Right.
Let me suggest that
problem.
there are a variety of ways to prohibit that in addition to or in place of signage. And you might want to discuss with the chief the other alternatives, whether it's striping it as well as the signage, whether it's painting the spaces. But there are some alternatives that I've seen, I know we all have, and that you consider that in addition to the signage that's already there, or what you're gonna put up.
And we got a sidewalk painted, at least half a sidewalk painted today.
Crosswalk.
A crosswalk.
Yeah.
Sidewalk, just painted in the grass, right? It's a sidewalk. Crosswalk now going in because they just don't care how old we are when we're standing by the side of the road. If there's no sidewalk, they'll say, I don't have to stop for you. They just fly through there. So we're getting there. And it's one of the last things on Danny's bucket list. We've talked about this, and he said, Ed, it's coming. Just like Pierpont Road arrived, he says, you're going to get your crosswalk.
I just want to know, did you get that solar light that we were talking about last year at the Black
Oh.
Tavern that Danny suggested to you?
right.
I'm saving it for the new guy.
There is no new guy, he's 31 years.
I know, you have to have a test. This is
Okay.
going to be it.
Listen, I had that in the back of my head from that
I gotta
discussion
give
we
you
had that
credit.
night.
You're a quick thinker.
You betcha.
You are.
I was thinking something else, but I'll go with that.
Okay. I'm glad your memory's still with you. Good.
Listen, I don't have much going for me, but I got that.
Good.
Thanks, folks.
That-
Yep.
Thank you, guys.
Good luck with your
Thanks.
fair.
Thank
See
you.
you Saturday.
Make some cash. Next up, Town Administrator Report.
you got
Oh,
one
I'm sorry, I
more.
forgot. I'm sorry, I forgot. I apologize.
Hello.
Good evening.
My name is Tina, and I was here last week, and my question is about the
Your name?
Veterans Burial at Corbin Cemetery. I
Tina.
want to know where this is going, because my family and I have been waiting a long time to use this plot. We are waiting to bury my father over there, and I want to know what the holdup is. I have no idea. Dick Majerzik, I've been back and forth with him. We don't seem to know where it stands at this point, but I'm coming forward because of my family's been put on hold.
Okay. Greg.
There should be no holdup at this point. What, is this a veteran?
Yes, my dad, yes.
Yeah, there should be no holdup. The fact is, an area has been identified that's suitable for veterans, and to the extent it's a cremation, there shouldn't be an issue.
Okay.
So, I think until such time as an area was identified, and the town officials went out there along with the Veterans Graves Officer and the Veterans Agent, and actually determined what that area would be, and that, admittedly, that did not take place until this summer. That's been done. So at this point, there should be no holdup, other than just dealing with logistics and coming in and determining what the burial site would be, the exact location. You can come in and see Michelle during the daytime, and we can work with you on that.
Oh, perfect, perfect. I just didn't know if it was like a little thing that was just holding us up, or something
I don't
that
think,
was
I don't think it's so much of a
more-
little thing. I think it was just a question of identifying the area. And again, the town takes responsibility for the fact that that took a little bit longer than we thought it would.
Yeah, that's,
So would you instruct her to talk to the veterans agent or go directly to Dick Majerzik?
I think I'd come to the town first.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I'd stop with the town is a good place to be.
Do we need to lay out, I know it's cremation, but the size,
Yeah, so I don't have a plan with me tonight,
but it's been done?
but it's been done, it's been laid out, so we'll get that plan before you, and we'll go. We'll get it done.
perfect.
We apologize for your inconvenience and the heartaake that you've had
I
in
think
waiting
there
for
was a
so
little
long.
bit of confusion, even on Dick's behalf, too. He didn't know if we were waiting on somebody's signature, or what.
Okay, so now you know the answer.
Now I know the answer, and I can come to talk to
Good.
you?
No
You should-
holdup.
Okay, come here.
No holdup,
And
There
if
should
you
be no
hadn't
holdup at
brought it
all.
up, we wouldn't have given you and others an answer.
right?
Thank you.
I
for
appreciate
coming
it.
in.
Thank
For
you.
coming back.
Thank you.
We appreciate it.
Awesome.
Anybody else wishing to speak not on the agenda? Seeing none. Town Administrator Report.
Good evening, board members. So just a couple of updates. The town planner and I have been working on a adult marijuana bylaw to come before town meeting in October at the end of this month. And we've been working with town council. So you remember there was a moratorium that was put in place by a vote of town meeting. That moratorium will expire in November. So it's in the town's interest to have a bylaw in place at this coming town meeting. I've reviewed it at length with the planner and sent my comments off to council, and I expect that the final version will be back the end of this week, and then the planning board needs to hold a public hearing, which is the normal process for any zoning bylaw amendment. The bylaw is pretty standard. If you've heard of what other communities have done, there's a quota based upon the number of retail package store licenses that the community has. So the number of marijuana establishments or retail establishments is based upon that. Secondly, they will be restricted by special permit only to certain zones, so that people that have worries about a business opening up in the middle of their neighborhood, that's not going to happen. The further restrictions related to schools, churches, public offices and such. And then the third item that we looked at was there'll be no on-premises consumption. So it's for the purposes of retail sales and people leaving, but there'll be no cafes, I think is probably the word that was put up. And it's a pretty lengthy bylaw, but I at least wanted to give you a heads up that it's something that's being worked on right now.
Mr. Chairman,
Good. Mr.
just to follow Greg, are we paying very close attention to Charlton and learning from any mistakes that may have been made in that neighboring town in terms of their bylaw for?
That's why we're working closely with town council rather than kind of doing it on the cheap and doing it on the fly. Council has a lot of experience in working with these things. They work with a number of communities. They've seen when mistakes have been made. So we're going to depend heavily on Michelle, our town council, to help us craft something that's perfect for
I just want to
Dudley.
make sure that we're
Yeah.
well tuned into that and
Yeah.
don't get caught with egg on our face.
Hopefully not, but they would all be done by special permit, and the planning board would be the special permit granting authority in all the instances.
And people have to understand, too, we can craft a bylaw, have it approved by council and town meeting, it still has to go to the state, and the Attorney General would have the final say on any,
Yep.
if it was too prohibitive, or if it was not too broadly written, Attorney General would have the final call before it came back to the town. So if people are concerned and are interested in things like zoning bylaws, but especially this issue, stay in touch with the planning board, because they're going to be handling it.
And I think the press had asked me for a copy of it, and I'm assuming they're going to be writing a story at some point. So we're happy to give them a draft with the caveat, it's a draft. It's subject to change.
I'm not sure if it's appropriate at this time, Mr. Greg, but last meeting, there was a lot of discussion concerning a couple subdivisions in town. And there were some pointed questions that we wanted responses from the planner on.
So we had an opportunity to meet with the residents who were in to see you last week.
To Jesse
And-
Road.
Yeah, and we spent considerable time understanding what all their issues are. There are many issues, they're pretty widespread, as was explained to you at the meeting. The major issue is they're afraid that the project will not be built to town standards. It'll be an incomplete subdivision, and I think the planner has assured them that there'll be a bond amount that the planning board will set, and the bond, will be no releasing of the bond until that work is done. There are other concerns, residents are not in favor of any waivers. There are also concerns about drainage, wetland areas, and sewage disposal, because the subdivision will be served by a private system that will pump the wastewater up to Alton Road, is my understanding. And there's some concern about whether that will meet the requirements under the law. And I thought it was an overall good meeting. I thought that we got the issues on the table. The planner indicated that he would bring the concerns back to the planning board, and overall, I think things went well.
So how about the other two subdivisions? There was a question, I followed up with Michelle, because once again, the planning board, I think, made an erroneous statement on Country View Estates concerning street acceptance requirements and what their chairman was saying.
Okay, so I just indicated that I had a conversation with the planner about that, and everyone needs to understand that the process of acceptance of a road requires affirmative recommendation of this board, of the Board of Selectmen. And if the road is not constructed to standards which the Board of Selectmen feels is in the town's best interest, the board has a right not to recommend, and I wanted to make sure that the planning board and the planner understand that's how it is, and enough that I think you had a good understanding of it.
That specific section that I forwarded
Yeah,
to Michelle?
yeah, the issue that you had referenced, yes.
Okay, and then the other one was Pierpont. I'd asked to have either a copy or a justification why they did a bond reduction, because the most recent email that went out, I took a quick ride up there today before the meeting, and certainly Danny's well aware of it, and I'm sure Vinnie's well aware of it, the condition of the subcoat they have up there, base coat, the fact that there may be some questions as to the integrity of it. I noticed they had some saw cuts in the ground, like they may be replacing things, but it was indicated in the email I read that the developer intends to fix the subcoat, a base coat, I mean, and then put a finish coat on, and if anybody goes up there, like Danny said 100 times, the finish coat should be the roller coming out of that subdivision when they're done. If you go up there, the roads aren't connected, there's ledge. I would just like to have somebody from the planning board, I'd like to have the engineer come in, if we could, and just play it out for everyone, just in case I'm not wrong, we're not wrong, and just justify if this developer is trying to progress, as the email said today.
Is that a request?
If we can have their engineer come in, I
Okay, let me
mean,
ask you one more question then. Would you like to make a motion to that effect?
well, I don't know if it requires a motion, or we just
It
ask.
doesn't require a motion, but a motion gets entered into the minutes.
I just wouldn't know how
Can we
to,
make a motion on that issue?
Yeah, we can make a request, that's all we can do.
Okay.
I mean, we can't tell them, but I got some, everyone should take a ride up there before this goes too far down. I mean, it's an issue Danny's been following, and I'm sure Vinnie's gonna follow. It's a good-sized subdivision, and, you know, we were here with the water sewer folks, and we were talking about different issues, but you take a ride up there, and it's sobering what those, it's a private development, I completely understand that, but if they think they're gonna roll a new base coat, and the berms are broken, there's patches, there's some issues up there that's gonna require more than just another, in my opinion, a base and a finish.
So
So,
when the town administrator makes a report, we can take any action that's appropriate. So my question is, Greg, to you and to Sully, is it possible that we could put our concerns specifically about those two subdivisions into the minutes of the meeting as part of our discussion? Can we do that?
Why not?
yeah, I think we have, because Michelle was very good about following up, and it came up at the last planning board meeting, and one of the members of the board seemed like they understood where we were coming from, but it almost got like glossed over again, because they said again that it's not required, and if I can forward it to everybody, you read the section 16, I think, under the street acceptance town bylaws, it paraphrasing, I got it on my phone, one of four things, not limited to the four things, and one of them is clearly oil and sand at the discretion of the superintendent. So we're gonna be long gone, and the town's gonna have these roads, and we just gotta make sure negative recommendation sometimes gets defeated at town meeting.
Well, and I'm assured by the planner, I have the numbers in front of me, but when I spoke to him, he assured me that this project does have sufficient bond amounts that are remaining to complete all work, but I haven't seen what that amount is.
That's a Pierpont.
Yeah.
Well, I'm talking about the oil and sand at Country View, but I hope it, I mean, if the email, it didn't lay out a timeline, it laid out a projected course of action, I guess the way to phrase it. But if they're gonna put a base coat, and they still got another whole phase, they haven't finished yet. I mean, just take a
That's
ride up there.
interesting what Greg just said. Did you say that you don't know what the figure is?
I don't know what the bond amount is now.
Okay.
No.
Question then, is that public information?
Sure.
So could a resident of that subdivision find out
It's not a recommendation of the
how
engineer.
much is left in the bond?
Sure, Paul.
But they can't come to you because you don't know it.
Right,
So to who do they go to? The planning office?
the planner.
Okay, thank you.
And like I said, I just would like to see the process to get to where we are and then where the developer wants to be, which I think everyone wants him to be, so. But thank you. Greg, some more under your report.
Yeah, one more thing. There's a letter in your packet from Ramco Construction addressed to the board. It says they respectfully request an amendment to their existing gravel removal permit issued December 18th, 2012, to include the ability to import soil at the property located off Fish Road in Dudley, existing plan in your office, and then it goes on to identify the particular property. It's not on the agenda, but I did want to acknowledge it this evening so that the board knew that it was a matter, the request that was made by Mr. Andrelevich.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Joseph?
the city of Worcester's got a big project out, and one of the issues is soil that they need. And I know because Dick called me, and I said, we can't make a motion. We can't do it. But I would ask, and remember, I'm going to make a motion, I'm going to ask to have something put on the table about late requests. I said, we can't approve it. But there is a way that I can acknowledge, or I can ask that the board acknowledges it. So I'm going to ask unanimous consent for the board simply to favorably acknowledge receipt of a letter from Ramco dated September 28, 2018, regarding an amendment to an existing gravel removal permit.
Greg, this is a little bit bigger than a parking issue.
Yeah, it is.
So, my question, I know they already have an existing permit. Is this similar to the other operation in town? Is it gonna be monitored? Do we know?
I don't know, and I don't know, I'd have to go back and look at what notifications may be required for amendment of an permit, you know what I'm saying? There may be, I don't have the rule in front of me, but it could be that there's rules that state that there needs to be notifications provided. I don't want to step on any toes about that.
So, I guess my question then, Paul, I know you and I spoke about it. Is this something that can't wait till our next meeting?
No, and that's why I just wanted to favorably acknowledge receipt. I don't know the specifics. I do know that there is a large gravel pit on that property. I know it's also going to, down the road, hopefully, be a project that we can look at for potential water aquifer. I know tests were done in another location on that property. And the two daughters rejected it for ecological reasons. So that's a concern of mine, but that's a concern that would come with discussion, and I would want to dig into it, but I do want to give the company and the people a chance to at least get their foot in the door, and then we either take it apart or we don't, when we get it legitimately on the agenda.
Board member comments?
So what is the actual ask, Mr. Chairman?
I defer to Craig. I did not
Ability
speak.
to import soil. What does that mean, if there's a gravel pit?
So the last time the board had a request like this, you took a vote, and I can't remember if the proponent came in and talked to you or not, I don't remember. But, you know, you have the opportunity to amend the permit and put it out there.
Well, I mean, I think we made a decision to take it up at the next meeting.
Yeah.
I mean,
But, sorry. So, by
So what
doing
does
what
it mean?
Paul's requesting,
Bringing dirt in or out?
And
but doing what Paul's
Kirk coming
requesting
in.
just means, Paul, can you just restate it? I don't want to misstate it. We're
Yeah,
gonna,
again, I'm doing the same thing that we did for the other requests that came due under a time constraint, but not in a timely manner. That is simply favorably acknowledge receipt of the request, period.
and as the town administrator stated,
Dated September 28th.
as the town administrator stated, we'll have to find out exactly what the process is.
Oh, we got a lot more work to do, you know, on this. There's more information. We need more information on a lot of things, but I don't want to hold anything back that may in fact benefit the town. That's all I'm saying.
Mr.
But
Singer,
I'm not approving this. I'm just acknowledging, I want us to acknowledge receipt of it.
Import soil, to me, seems a little vague. How much are we importing? 1 dump truckload, 1,000 dump truckloads? What kind of soil is it? Where is it coming from? Is it clean? Is it,
The state has regulations regarding what can be imported.
So
So,
we'll be
I just
prepared
don't
to
wanna
get the-
vote.
No, we're not approving the
So-
request. We're not doing that.
by doing
I don't want to do that.
as Paul's asked, if we just do a favorable acceptance of the request,
Acknowledgement of the
acknowledgement
request.
of the request.
That's all, just acknowledgement.
That's okay.
Okay. I have no problem, and I just want to state for the record, this developer, this family has always done everything by the book in town, beyond the book. You know, they've helped write the book
Sure have.
through the years.
Well said.
So I have no issue at all with that Paul's suggestion, and then I'm sure between Greg and the applicant, we'll move forward and dot our i's and cross our
Down
t's.
the road, but
Right.
that's fodder for another day,
Fair enough.
because I have a lot of questions that I want to ask too.
So with the board's permission, we'll act upon Paul's request.
To acknowledge
Favorable acknowledge of a receipt.
By favorably acknowledging receipt, are we allowing them to start employment soon?
No.
No.
Why,
Absolutely not.
what
It's not
what the hell is
approval
the
of the
holdup
request.
here? Yes, we received it.
I think it's a quick,
I have no objection to that.
yeah, it just didn't make the agenda.
No,
that's
no,
all.
I don't know if that's...
No, I know, but I don't know why we're
think
passing
Mr.
words.
Ritter is
There's
just
a
trying
piece
to
of
move us
paper
Go
that was...
over
put-
next week, next
Yeah, absolutely.
Well,
meeting.
we hope so.
Well, we don't have
All
to
right.
acknowledge
If
it or
it's
not
submitted,
acknowledge it.
Right.
Submitted it.
Next.
Well, so we're square with that, Paul's suggestion.
Yes.
It's favorable to,
Acknowledge receipt, favorable receipt, done.
I've got it, but we're not acting on it yet, correct?
Right.
correct. So again, I'm just going to state, this will be the last time I vote for, not vote, this is the last time I generate a loophole to move something along. It's not, you know,
That's not what we're doing here, though.
no. But I'm just saying, I've never,
Yeah, fair enough.
14 years as selectman, I never favorably looked upon a request of something that wasn't on the agenda that we let someone go do.
We need to, we really,
We're going over this next
I gotta say this,
meeting.
it's pretty rare that we have a meeting 2 weeks in a row. So to have these things fall in the cracks between two meetings really
yeah.
Right.
took some timing on someone's end to not meet the
Right.
deadlines.
And like I said, it's no reflection on,
I don't think there's anything sinister at what
no,
Mr.
absolutely
Chairman-
not.
Nope, there isn't.
No reflection on the previous people, and like I said, no doubt in my mind that the other requests will be handled properly. You all good with that? Yeah, well, tell them it's a long ride to West Boylston. Around town, focus on local businesses. Nobody,
Not this week, but I would ask that we put on the agenda for the October 15th meeting, another farmer, Victor Calgren, who lives on Airport Road, does have cattle. He used to own Pleasant View Farm, where Farmer Tim's now is located. And I've talked to him briefly and said I can't give you a date, but I'm going to ask that we place it on the October 15th meeting.
everybody good with that?
Yep.
And once again, as we try to ramp up this category, if people in town know people that own businesses, please bring them forward. I mean, we asked, Gentex, we communicated with, they said they'd try to come in at one time, and we should try to get some bigger employers, maybe get them to come in.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Joseph.
could I ask, in line with this, that the public, if anyone in the public or who watches this or watches a replay of it, knows of someone in Dudley who produces, grows or breeds a product that exceeds the consumption that they need in a given year, would they please contact me through the board so we can talk to them about some of the goals that we have in the 5-year plan that the Economic Development Committee put together. And John Briere and I have talked about this extensively now that he's back, and have them get in touch with us, because we'd like to know who they are, what they produce, and then we'll have further discussions with them about a potential agricultural commission for the town. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Mr. Chairman, I
Mr.
think we need
Rona.
to take a look at that proposed draft EDC plan and gain some approval from the Board of Selectmen too, before we go too far down the road of approving commissions based on it.
Right. Absolutely, I agree. And then we talked about having a public hearing at 1.2 to
Did.
air it out to the people too.
Did.
Yeah.
So let's try to move on that, get it maybe somewhere in November before the holidays kick in. Maybe do something, everybody try to take a look at it, come up with some suggestions or concerns. License and permits, we have none. Public hearing, we have none. Public business, Dudley Conservation Land Trust amend the conservation restriction on West Main Street, known as Parcel 1, located on the southerly side of West Main Street, easterly side of Fabian Road, Plan Book 718, Plan 74, containing 25.5691 acres. Parcel 2, located on the southerly side of West Main, Plan Book 688, Plan 40, containing 3.509 acres, tabled from the last meeting, and I see Sandy Peterson here.
Mr. Chairman, before they make their presentation,
Mr.
could I
Joseph.
make a statement?
Yes, you may.
In 15 years on the board, I've never seen a more comprehensive, accurate, clear response to a request for changes in a document. Your 60 or so different entries had to require a great deal of work, but it made as I went through the original document and then the changes, it all made completely perfect sense, and I want you to know that. It's a phenomenal job.
That's glad to hear that.
That's high praise indeed.
So, Sandy, before we go through all the changes, which I don't think we have to, I echo Mr. Joseph, thank you for your quick response and you folks getting it straightened out. So I'm going to ask the town administrator, has it been, does it need to be reviewed, or can we just act on the document as presented?
I would suggest that it be acted on by the board. It's already been vetted by the council working for the State Executive Office of Environmental Affairs, so I'm not sure there's anything more that needs to be done with it.
All right, so at this time, unless you folks have any objection, we're going to take a vote.
So moved, Mr.
Second.
Chairman.
Motion made by Mr. Marcy, second by Mr. Ruda, to accept the amended document as presented. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Unanimous.
I know you waited a long time, but it was too darn good a job to spend a lot of time on.
Yeah, Michelle's got to notarize it.
Holy
It's one of the things we
smokes.
have to have done.
Well, we're glad to do it, glad to comply.
Stephen, ask them how long it took them to put together this
Yeah,
report,
yeah, that's it.
please.
It's just got to be notarized, though.
Sandy, while we're waiting for Michelle, how long did it take to actually get the ball rolling to where we are now?
Well, we started talking to the LeBlancs probably a year and a half ago. A year and a half. And it's been, a long time.
Long time.
But, you know, compared to Wheelock Woods, which was actually 10 years,
Right,
it's relatively
much
shorter.
quicker, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, perfect. We thank you again for the donation. It's in perpetuity, so we're long gone. It'll be here for people to enjoy.
Well, I certainly hope so. That's what we aim for.
It's pretty fancy.
Perfect.
I just
Thank
have-
you, folks.
I just have one
Thank
other
you.
question.
Yep, thanks for coming.
Thanks for being patient.
Yes.
Next up, we have the town clerk, Laura Finn, to discuss the assistant town clerk.
That's the only sticker.
One copy. Good evening, Laura.
Good evening.
Thank you.
I'm hoping that you folks have had a chance to look at the packet that I prepared. I have asked that an article be put on the upcoming annual town meeting in regards to a salary increase for the position of assistant town clerk. I have met with the personnel board, and in part of that packet, hopefully right on top, is the recommendation that they approve the increase that I requested, which is currently the assistant is making $18 an hour. I've asked, it's kind of a two-part request, that her salary be increased to $19 per hour, starting with this meeting in the fall. And then on the Springtown meeting, it would be increased to $20 per hour, and that would begin with the new fiscal year, July 1st.
Greg, I just have a couple questions.
Absolutely.
Do these requests fall within the approved steps of that position? We're not creating a different salary than is allowed under the steps. For example, if she had there's another step coming that was gonna be 1950.
No.
We're going
No.
18,
No.
we're falling under,
No, it just said the pay range for this position, Mrs. Finn did a pretty extensive study, which is
Right.
included in your report, a pay study,
the email.
and it shows that the range is not in keeping with what other communities are doing. That's why the request is before you this evening. And what we typically do is we would combine it with our budget request, or we would include it as a separate article for town meeting.
Right, then my second question would be, outside of other percentage raises and outside of merit pools that we've been using the last few years to attempt to correct some of these,
Yes.
you've gone to the 90% rule on some positions. And I'm not saying nobody doesn't deserve anything. Are we opening up 2 meetings down the road, we're gonna get a request for somebody else, and then 2
No,
meetings?
I think the concern that we have is that the position as the assistant has certain legal and statutory authority, and we want to make sure that, for continuity's sake, we have someone in that office that regardless of who is town clerk will be able to run the operation. And we need, in order to do so, we need to be competitive with our salary. So if another department can demonstrate that they've got a job that's similar in nature with legal and statutory authority, we're happy to entertain that. The only one that I know of beyond that is probably the treasurer, the assistant treasurer collector. But I think that there's something that is necessary. The problem is the cost of living increase, and the amount that's available through the merit pool is insufficient to kind of make this one-time adjustment. So what we've done is we try to catch up, but the only way to do so is to get an additional sum of money approved in the warrant, and that's the reason why it's before you today.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Ruda.
So just looking at this its breakdown that Greg or I have provided for us, I'm looking at the assistant town clerk salary survey here. Charlton pays $20.11. Oxford pays $32. Is that right? $24.45, my mistake. Southbridge pays $23.67. Webster pays $27.98. And Dudley pays $18. We'll run the same page with this, right?
That's correct, and I think if you average them out, you would find, I would say, if you were to hire in any of these communities a brand-new assistant town clerk with absolutely no experience whatsoever, they would probably start at a minimum of $19 an hour. My assistant started at $16.
Well, I guess I'm pointing out the fact that we've done our due diligence here to, and I appreciate the
Yeah, I think I've been
personnel's work.
reasonable.
Your due diligence without question, Greg's work on this.
Yeah, and we still feel that we're within that 90%.
Well within
Number.
justification,
Absolutely.
because we're looking at like surrounding towns in like salaries, so I'm not pushing back against it.
And again, to echo what Greg said, in my absence, or in a town clerk's absence, Mass General Law gives all of the authority to the assistant town clerk. So, for instance, recently, earlier this year, when I was out for several weeks with back surgery, Jackie ran that office. She was able to do everything in my absence, as opposed to just having a clerk that could not have done that, issued certified documents or posted meetings or sworn people into office. And we had a debt exclusion election that wasn't on the calendar this year, and she stepped right up and took care of that. And nothing was missed. You know, the office ran smoothly, and she did it part-time hours.
It's kind of keeping with our, the goal that I've had is that we have a plan in place, a succession plan. If, through the election process, someone else is elected as town clerk in the future, there'll be an individual in that office that new person could lean upon and depend upon to keep the operation going. And with presidential election coming up in 2020, there's no time to be wasted.
Mr. Joseph.
Yeah, we can't guarantee the town meeting will approve
No.
anything.
Correct.
No, correct.
However, I'm going to move that at the request of the town clerk and at the recommendation of the Personnel Board, that this board seeks approval for a $19 per hour pay rate at the fall town meeting for the assistant clerk. And that this board commits to asking for a rate of $20 per hour for that same position at next spring's Springtown meeting. That's it.
Is there a second? Second. So, or are we, not to change the motion, but are we looking for the fall town meeting to retro to the beginning of the fiscal year? Or change it in
No.
November and then
No.
change it in the spring?
Correct. Change in November, change in the spring.
So we don't want to retro it to the beginning of the fiscal year?
That would be lovely.
Look at that, or no?
Who are you?
Well, you know, we
Right.
can't,
Yeah,
Yeah.
right now, the request that I've made
We have enough.
at $1 more an hour at 25 hours per week, there's roughly about 35 weeks left in the fiscal year, so you're looking at another $875 for
Right,
the remainder of the
but-
year.
Let the motion stand as November?
yeah.
Okay. Any further discussion? Questions or comments?
I would like to make a comment before you close me out entirely. As Greg kind of alluded to, if you, and when you elect a new town clerk, well, we all know it's not a big secret, I am retiring next year, and you will have a new town clerk. And I would really like this board to consider and I've mentioned it to the personnel board already, that the town clerk's office, all offices come through the town clerk's office, much like the selectman's office. I am the only department that deals with people on that level that does not have a full-time clerk. And I think really going into the future, when you have a new town clerk, they're not going to know anything. They're going to be leaning towards the assistant town clerk to help them learn their office. And I really would hope that you consider making the assistant town clerk's position, full-time. So that's for a future discussion, but that's what I would, appreciate you considering. Maybe even in the spring.
All the positions. Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion or questions? Hearing none, all in favor, state aye.
All right.
Aye. Unanimous.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Laura. Next up, Fire Station Committee to speak about additional amount for the fire station project.
I can start off.
Mr. Balakonis.
And I can ask Dean, can you come up too, please? So ask the board members to just follow along. There was a memo in your packet from our project manager. And, I'm gonna kind of go to script according to this, but the project is underway, and I think things are going well, and I think the members of the building committee will tell you that things are going well. What has happened in the early stages of the project, we encountered some difficulties, and those difficulties are enumerated in this document that's here, but they're items that aid into the town's contingency. And one of the things that strikes me the most is when you look at the project, as of a month ago, the project was 5% complete. However, at that time, 65% of the town's project contingency had been encumbered or spent. So think about that. Your project is 5% complete, and 65% of your contingency is gone. So that's the reason why we're here today, is to discuss what options are available going forward. And the option that's recommended by the committee is to seek an additional amount of $225,000 at the upcoming fall town meeting. So it'll need to be approved by the selectmen, it'll need to be approved by the capital planning committee. And we hope that town meeting sees fit to give us the additional monies necessary to complete the project. So the total project cost to date, or the hit on the contingency, is $207,562. So if you total up all the items that are in this request, which includes the electrical sub-bid withdrawal, which cost an additional $127,087. Contaminated soils, $60,252. Existing foundation on suitability, $4,741. And then poor soils, organic materials, $15,482. So those four things taken together total $207,562, which is why the committee is requesting an additional amount of $225,000. So that's that's kind of the most important facts that you need to understand. We were, the biggest hit and the biggest problem that we faced right out of the start with the project is the electrical sub-bidder withdrew, and their bid was very low, and you can see on the first page, it was $499,900. And the second low bidder was unable to take on the project because they were busy, which forced us to go with the third low bidder, and the third low bidder was considerably more expensive. And the net cost of that change was $127,087. One of the items that we had to offset that is we were able to negotiate a settlement with the initial bidder for $25,000. So there'll be $25,000 coming back to the project. The original bid difference was $152,087. So the options at that point would have been to put that sub-bid out to bid, and that would have delayed the start of a work for about 60 days. And there's no guarantee that we would have ended up with a bid that would have been lower at that time. So committee took a positive recommendation and moved forward with the project, but with a hit on the town's project contingency. There are other things that were associated with the project, and those deal with soils. So you'll understand that in the beginning of the project, the town hires a geotechnical engineer. The geotechnical engineer goes out and does site borings. The intent of the site borings is to go out and identify a couple of things, whether there's ledge present on the site, and whether there's any contamination or poor soils that are identified. So the contaminated soils and the poor soils, or the organic materials, were discovered under the existing structure. So the first issue is the contaminated soil. It was going back into the 1980s. The fire department had an underground fuel storage tank. That tank was removed, and it was done so in accordance with all of the applicable laws at that time. However, as part of that removal process, it was noted that there were soils that were encountered that were covered by and enclosed by the existing station structure. And so, as a result of that, the town had to hire a licensed site professional, engage in mitigation, and ultimately remove and dispose of those soils. So that was not an inexpensive discovery, and it would not have been discovered through any type of geotechnical investigation. That was a $61,000, $251 hit to the town. The third item related to soils is poor soils or organic materials discovered under the apparatus bays. And so you say, why wasn't that discovered? Because again, it was within the confines of the existing building. Generally, you don't go through and dig up where the building is already there. You assume that the building, when it was built, would have been constructed on the proper base soils, and that wasn't the case. So that was done, and there's a cost associated with that, and it's noted here. And then the final item is the foundation, and you'll see in the notes that are here that the foundation was discovered to be of substandard construction, and as a result of that, a structural engineer has determined that there's additional modifications that need to be made to the existing footings in concrete to support both new and the existing structures. So those are the items that, in totality, represent what our costs are. There are a couple of things that when you look at the project budget, and I think the chairman had pointed out, is, well, the project contingency looks to be okay, and it does. If you realize that we still have to purchase a vehicle exhaust system, so you're required as part of the project to have a method of exhausting the vehicle fumes that are discharged into the building. And there's a cost with that, and that's not part of this project. That'll be procured at a later date, but that's estimated to be a $80,000 hit. And then, and it's not unanticipated. And then there's a emergency alert communication system that costs $50,000. And I would venture to say that we don't want to compromise by taking out those things, because those things are vitally important to the safety of the project and the ability of that project or station to have outside internal communication. So we want to keep those in the project. So really, the alternative is to look and see what might be available. And to kind of summarize, the committee's recommendation is to go forward for $225,000, which will require a vote of town meeting. The only other thing I would add is we'll ask for your approval to include this under the original debt exclusion that was voted for the project. So the state DOR, Department of Revenue, allows towns a one-time opportunity to go back based upon unforeseen or unanticipated conditions, to go back and make a request of them to include these costs under the original debt exclusion. So that's what makes this viable, is that we would include it within the original scope of the debt exclusion. They will not approve things if we decided we want to have a bigger project, or we want to have a different roofing system, or we want to do something different. They wouldn't approve that. But I think there's a very strong chance that they would approve this based upon the fact that these were things that were unanticipated throughout the project. And I'll throw over to Dean, whether he wants to fill in any additional items.
Do you guys want to speak first?
No, I just wonder if the selectmen have any questions. I don't quite understand what you just said. I mean, I'm used to hearing it now for the past 4 months. So I'm wondering, and you're maybe not, so if you have any questions, so you totally understand what Greg just said, and I guess now we can try to help answer your questions. Mr. Joseph.
Why was the vehicle exhaust recovery system not included in the original specs?
I think, Greg, I can say that it was. And it was questioned by the sheet metal workers union out of Boston or something. And through the attorney, they went to the Attorney General's office. So it was deemed easy to remove it at the time. We knew we were going to spend this money. We had that allocated in our allotment. We kept 80 grand on the side. The killer here is the electrical and the dirty dirt. That's what killed our budget.
All right, so let me
But Greg could maybe explain better. He knows a better term because he had to deal with the Attorney General's office.
So we had to, let me just get this right. We knew we needed a vehicle exhaust system.
Mm-hmm.
It was wisely included in the original plan.
Yes.
But due to the objections, and I still don't understand the nature of the objections, but I want to make sure I understand this process. Due to the objections of a union in Boston, we had to take that out of the budget.
That's right.
And now we have to add it in? Is that correct?
Kind of, Paul. I mean, the fire chief is an expert in vehicle exhaust systems, and I'll let him speak to the nature of that. But I can tell you that the town was looking for a certain type of vehicle exhaust system. We did not feel that we could get that as part of a kind of a base bid, big project bid. We felt as though we needed to have something that was more specific, and that's why it was pulled out.
Okay.
But we still have to procure it through normal means. So we're not going to pick up the phone and say to someone,
Yeah.
can you install a vehicle exhaust system? It still has to be done either under a state contract or through a bid.
With your
And there's no way
consent,
around
Mr.
that.
Chairman, the 80,000 and the 50,000, those are estimates,
Right.
but they will be put out to bid. And it is possible, if not likely, that the actual expenditures for each of those items might be less than what we estimate we're going to have to spend. Is that correct?
Correct.
Correct.
Okay.
Dean, Mr. Chairman, I think the fire chief, was working very closely in the beginning part of the vehicle exhaust system, and then as was pointed out, there was a controversy that came about where there was a bid protest. We seem to have survived that and gotten through that. If that bid protest had been upheld, I think we would be in a different position here today, because basically what it would have done is stop that project.
Okay.
So an $80,000 item would potentially stop a $6.5 million project where the town has given assurances that it was going to be put out to bid, but.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that we understood, and that everyone listening understood, that the amounts of 80 and 50,000 are estimates. We might be able to come in actual expenditure less than that. So let me just do this. You've got, based on what these additional expenditures are, your original contingency was $525,450. 8.1%. Based on what we have to spend, or what we estimate we'll have to spend on the items in this memo, we would then have an estimated contingency of $187,888.50. And that would be 2.9% of the overall budget. So you are requesting $225,000, and we understand the process. If you add that 225 to the 187,880, you're talking about a total contingency budget of $413,000, give or take a little bit. Do you believe, since it's less, it's about $132,000 less than the original contingency, do you believe that, and you said one time we're allowed to do it only, do you think that'll be enough, the $413,000, to cover as a contingency fund from now to the end of the project?
I think it will be. There'll probably be, and Mike and Justin can probably back me up on it, there's gonna be change orders throughout the project. That's just how any project goes, and those cost money, but I think it'll be enough because we're through the worst of it. Like the soils, dirty soil's been removed, the foundation's in. I think it's smoother sailing from here, so yes, I think it'll be enough.
Yeah, and I can echo that statement. Working in control construction professionally, this is no different here. We're gonna enter the construction phase now of everything that we know. We know the existing structure, we know what's in there, we can actually poke around, so there's gonna be less unforeseen conditions. All of the items that are outlined in this memo are not from lack of oversight or, contractor negligence or, any engineer not doing their job in the design. There were simply issues that could not be identified because they were, one, either concealed by an existing structure, or two, were just simply a clerical thing, like with the electrical contractor.
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yep. Any other questions?
Nope.
Anything else you want to add? So are we looking for a motion tonight to endorse this request, or we wait till we do the warrant?
I would wait until we do the warrant, because the FAA and the Capital Planning Committee both have to make recommendations on this, and then I'll come back to you.
Yes.
But I just want you to know, I'm inclined to favorably support a request to add $225,000 to the contingency fund for the building, and that would be part of the original proposal in terms of debt exclusion.
So what I will do for the next meeting is, I have to prepare the request to the Department of Revenue. Selectmen have to approve it. I'll prepare it, we'll put it on the next agenda. I'd like to get that approval going into town meeting. People may ask, it'd be nice to have that approval in hand when we go into town meeting.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.
Good luck with everything else. What was the quote, smooth sailing? Student rep, none at this time, unfortunately. Board member comments, Mr. Marcy.
I just want to remind everybody that this Saturday is our annual Apple Festival from 11 to 3 at the Grange, where we have the Strawberry Festival. We'd like to get that event bigger and bigger every year to help the Grange out. So come on down.
Mr. Ruda.
All set, thank you.
Mr. Sigenovich.
I said everything I wanted to say with regards to Dan earlier. I'm good, thank you.
Mr. Joseph.
All done?
I just want to, I was approached by a couple people that attend the church across the street, And questioning him about the crosswalk. There's been some issues with people trying to get across, and cars aren't stopping. I'm just curious, Chief, and Highway, can we get some kind of more signage there? Can we, that's not the state highway part, is it? Can we contact the state and see if they can give us some kind of signage, or maybe send one of their crews out to paint the crosswalk, maybe a little brighter? I'm not sure what the solution is, but
Do they have one of those lighted signs for a crosswalk like they do for other things?
they don't, but they could. It'd be nice if they did. Maybe, Chief, you can talk to your people, and the Nichols parking came up tonight, so just kind of keep an eye up there. And is there an update at the bottom of Tufts Hill on the brush? So,
We need to kick that up a notch.
do we want to kick it up a notch, or is there any chance maybe when the brush mower was headed out, it could put the blade down on the way by, or? Oh, you cut it all back? Oh, perfect. Oh, perfect.
You know what I mean? He's roaring into retirement here, I told you.
Permanent solution though there, Mr. Chairman.
I agree. I mean, we can't rely on the state, obviously, for a lot. All right, thank you, Mr. Guy, I appreciate it. Chief, thank you for your work, and all I ask is we get some updates on those planning board questions, because it looks like it's gonna be a busy time for planning stuff. At this time, I'll take a motion to adjourn into
Do you have any
executive session.
environmentals?
Oh, departmentals? Oh, sorry, Chief.
Oh, you want to skip departmental communications?
Skip right over that.
Felt stiff.
We're gonna cut that down to once a
Felt
month.
left out.
You had that last week.
We're gonna cut that to once a month.
Just two quick things. Wednesday, the second time I'm trying Coffee with a Cop Day. That's a national thing that was put up by the Department of Justice last year. And basically to just have offer some informal discussion opportunities. So last year I had done it up at Nichols, up on the green up there, right by the Common. And a good opportunity to meet with students and people from town or whatever that stopped in. So I'll be doing that again up in that area on Wednesday from 9 to 11 up there around the campus in the green area. So if anybody wants to stop by, feel free to do so. And I also got word today that October 27th, that's the last Saturday of October, we'll be having another drug take-back day. So we obviously have the kiosk in the lobby all the time for any unused or unwanted prescription medications. But we'll have that again taking place this month. So I just got that word today. So probably 9 to 1 on the 27th.
Thanks, Chief.
That's it. Thank you.
Didn't mean to cut you off before.
Anything, Danny?
Just one final thank you to the board, to Greg and to Michelle. That's it. And this is
All right,
our
get outta
last
here.
selectmen's meeting, and I'll watch the rest of them on TV.
Put in your new chair.
Fire and EMS, you all set? Acting Superintendent, you all set?
Chairman, I'm going to move that we adjourn into executive session, not to reconvene in public this evening. And we do so under Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, subsection 21A2, to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel, or to conduct collective bargaining sessions or contract negotiations with non-union personnel.
Motion made, is there a second? Second by Mr. Marcy, is there a roll call vote?
John Marcy, aye.
John Ruda, aye.
Stephen Sullivan, aye.
Kerry Siganovich, aye.
Paul Joseph, aye.
Not to convene an open session, right?
Yeah, well, again.
Good evening, everyone.
Thank you, everybody. Good night.
Good night.